My name is Swanessa Wingfield, and I am a graduate LTDE 5306 student. We're waiting for our presentation to load. It's moving a little slowly. And there we are. This is how I've planned out being a change maker, and I've created this plan that I'm going to share with teachers on my campus in order to move us a little further in the um, more in depth model of technology integration. So, this is entitled Best Practices How SAMR and TPAC Seals the Deal. Um, Changing the secondary classroom. A quote by Kathy Moore is the most important principle for designing lively e-learning is to see e-learning design not as information design, but as designing an experience. Students remember experiences. They remember the things that happened to them, the things that made them laugh, the things that made them cry, the things that touch their heart in a meaningful way. So when we integrate technology, we want to make sure that we're creating an experience that students will remember and retain and help to move the needle in expected outcomes. So in this presentation, in my plan for change, participants will be able to evaluate levels and effectiveness of technology, how technology is involved, and how we can ensure it is present in learning. I'm not going to walk through the entire presentation, but we'll talk about what does research say because we want to make sure that our practices are research based and that we're not just running the spectrum of ways that we think we can best use technology. But what does the research say? And we will then complete a Mentimeter word cloud. I will share a code with the teachers, and they will build a word cloud on what comes to mind when they hear digital learning and student engagement. How do those things tie in? Sometimes we think about being having fun and making the lesson fun more than making the lesson meaningful. I had to change settings a little bit. Pardon me. So, the idea behind engagement in any environment is connection. And when engagement is the foundation of student of the e-learning environment, connections are made between the learner and the information they gain is crystallized. So what will the change look like? That would be the question that would come to mind for me. You say you want us to change, you say you want us to create a more meaningful experience. What would that look like? So we will participate in a think tank and respond to each and reply to two others. So what I used to think that student engagement was. Now I realize student engagement requires this. From now on, I will. So teachers will uh, move into a think tank mode where they will consider these things and how they might move forward. So we think about how engagement has evolved, and we can think about that in two ways. There are natives and immigrants. Digital natives, our students today are all native speakers of the digital language. They use computers, video games, and the internet from the time they get here till they've completed their learning experience. Um, Immigrants, those of us who were not born into the digital world but have at some later point in our lives become uh, fascinated by and adopted many of the practices of native participants. So we'll talk about that and give that some consideration, because a lot of times teachers think that, well, I am not a person who learns by computer only, so I can't force students to learn by computer only. And I want to express to teachers that we have to think about not just using the computer all the time, but using it in a meaningful way, using tools in a way that supports instruction. And remember that we are preparing students for their future, not our past. And we've had an issue. I've had some difficulties with this presentation, but that's okay. That's one part of the use of technology. And we'll pick up right there. We'll give it a moment to load again. So we'll take a look at SAMR and the levels of the depth of integration that can be found in the levels of redefinition, modification, augmentation, and substitution. So we'll watch that video and then we'll close out that video and move on to learn more about um, the technical knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, and content knowledge of the TPAC framework. Reasons for change. Studies show if we want to move the needle, there are things that need to be done. And what are we preparing students for? Again, we're preparing them for the future that they will experience, not the past that we have already experienced. So then teachers will culminate by collaborating. They'll work with their table groups to complete the Jamboard activity, generating ideas of what engagement with digital learning looks like in an online learning environment and what it should look like. And that is the end of that particular presentation. So this is my plan for creating a change environment in my campus and on my campus for the next um, semester, the next school year. So we want to move from, and I'm looking for my screen is kind of large. I need to make it smaller. We want to move from, um, as I said, from just including digital tools just to say that we're using um, something digital to actually creating environments where students are actually learning and um, growing and meeting those expected outcomes.